Green Day, time of your life. Hope you have it. And the well-wishers on C Spire text line and also on Twitter. So there you are. Live from the Trustmark Studios, where your hometown Trustmark team is always there to help you with new things. If you need to redo the kitchen or if you need to upgrade your air conditioner, people you trust, advice that works, member FDIC. Speaking of which, we're lulled into a little teaser here. Robert St. John is with us. Good morning, sir. How are you? And Perez. We're
Good morning, Paul.
A little bit of a teaser with temperatures today and tomorrow being pretty darn nice. Have you seen next week, in the end of this week? It is relentless in 100, 102, 103. So prepare. Your air conditioner might get a little momentary rest, but not much at all. That liner you did, when you go into the archives, you never come out. So I had that one from about 15 years ago. So how you doing, sir?
I'm great. Good morning to you. How are you?
Doing good. Perez is in the big chair. Is this the first time you've been in the big chair?
In my life, yes.
Yes. How's it feel?
Feels like I might have died, and well, you people are talking about it.
Well, it's all yours. No, but Robert, you have had a long history with Perez. We just thought it would be a good idea to have you on. So it's all yours, sir.
Well, you know, Perez was really a hero of mine, and I don't use that word lightly. And, you know, I know most of your listeners, maybe not most, but a lot of your listeners really just know him as your producer, engineer, sidekick for almost a quarter of a century. But a lot of us remember earlier days and his days at WZZQ, where he was, I mean, just truly a legend. This guy, he was the coolest guy on the coolest radio station, certainly in the state. But when it comes to looking at freeform radio and FM, where, you know, DJs basically program their own music, there were maybe 10 stations across the country, across the entire nation, that were notable, and Jackson had one of them, and Perez was the guy at that station. And as a kid who grew up loving music, you know, we didn't have access to stuff. You know, if you had any money, you could buy an album or two, but really, you know, I just spent my days, you know, flipping through the album covers at the record shops and listening to music or listening to the radio. Nobody had it on their phone. And you could catch it on their TV or whatever. In Hattiesburg, late at night, you know, I could range the antenna just right and pick up 102.9 and listen to Perez on the radio. And it was just, I've got something. Last year, I moderated a panel of former WZZQ DJs. And I'll tell you, for a radio station that's been gone over 40 years, the room was packed. And that's how much of an impact those DJs, namely Perez, had on an entire state, or at least the central region of that state. And there's a piece I read at that somebody, I didn't write this, but I could have written this. And I really think it's important for your readers to understand the impact this guy has had on Mississippi radio. It's just a couple of paragraphs, Paul. If you'll let me, I want to read this.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I read it last year at the thing. This is, I'm picking up this piece about midway through and talking about ZZQ. He says, the guy who epitomized it all was Perez. I can't think of WZZQ without thinking of Perez. He was and still is the best DJ I've ever heard. I wanted to be like him. I listened to him like a teacher, a mentor. I listened to his breaks. I learned from his music, from the way he talked, from his production. He was amazing. I can't possibly say enough about his skills, his creativity, and his knowledge. And he had the most wonderful radio voice. I was truly honored to work with him in later years. Perez could get away with things that no one else could, things that sounded like an impending car crash turned into staggering brilliance. Whole sets appeared in the pauses of songs, long rambling monologues on top of 3-minute intros led directly into the subject of the song to the second. He was always in control, always professional, but that wasn't always clear to the casual listener. The best and most understated description I've ever heard of his creative style is that he had a habitual disregard for on-air convention. Lastly, and certainly most importantly, his taste in music was unparalleled. His insight, amazing. His favorite song was Lawyers, Guns, and Money, a great Z-Von tune, and he would frequently end his overnight shows with it. And I can remember more than once pulling the car over when he played his signature song, Rock and Roll Suicide. It was written by a guy named Mark Cannizzaro. I could have written it myself, but he said it so much better. And that's the impact your cohort over all these years has had on kids like me growing up. Of course, I'm not that much younger than he is, but
I feel like our next guest ought to be Anthony Quinn for some reason.
Yeah.
Requiem for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
Well, Perez, you think maybe they took WKRP from ZZQ?
No, we were much better.
You and I were talking about this, I think it was off the mic earlier, well, this week or last week. Those call letters are still in existence, but they've migrated somewhere well up north somewhere.
Well, they were in Terre Haute the last time I heard about them.
Yeah, things
so
have
I don't
changed
know where they are now.
You know,
yeah.
I had a friend who told me, I worked in radio. You and I, we've all talked about this over the years. Really, and listening to ZZQ is what got me interested into doing that. And I started in about 77. I think it was about a year after Perez returned back to the station. And I did 4 years in it. And when ZZQ went country, those call letters were available then, and that Gluckstadt station was available. And I had a guy trying to talk me into doing that. Said you could buy the whole record library back then, and I was counting change, and the sofa cushion broke. There was no way I could have done it. But,
we don't often talk about this, but and Perez and I both cut our teeth in radio on music, of course. But I was always playing music and talking politics in between it to which some people complained to the general manager at that time. He's doing too much talking and about politics, et cetera, et cetera. But so moving over to full-time talk was an easy transition for me. But for Perez, I never asked you this. It had to be to a producer's, and then maybe doing some news and doing some sports. It was a whole different ballgame for you.
Well, it is different from what I started at, but that's fine.
Well, I know it's fine, but I mean, the format dictated you conform to that, and so that's sometimes not easy as far as creativity is concerned, and I understand that. Both of us, but we did have a chance to at least do that as far as the humor.
Yes, we have been funny over the ensuing years.
And that's we're the movie, Jimmy Stewart movie on Christmas time. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
I always think, and somebody told me, he said, if you can make somebody smile or laugh, then it's like the ringing of the bell, adding to the wings you get as far as an angel. I took that for as much as I could. But listen, I appreciate you very, very much for coming on. Anything else that you want to mention here?
Well, just WZZQ, those guys, and Perez, I mean, they were paid hardly anything.
Would you like me to get into that with you?
You want to tell us what your first paycheck was?
I don't remember, but I know it didn't cover my rent.
Yeah. Again, but if you looked at professions and jobs in Mississippi over that time period of income and pay and the impact they had, I think those guys, and especially Perez, had made more impact on kids' lives and young people's lives.
Robert, what you're saying, as we run out of time here, but what you're saying is that the career curvature is about the same as sometimes the restaurant business. as far as being rich and famous.
The restaurant business doesn't have groupies. Perez has groupies.
Stop it now.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Food groupies, come on.
Don't let him deny it.
Nellie Neal.